Hi, my name is Gianna Stanley. I'm a Richmond-based private chef, and this summer I'm taking you on a tour of RV Agriculture's farmers markets. Today we're at the Powhatan Village Market, located on the grounds of the beautiful Bienvenue event space. This is known as the most friendly farmers market. Let's go over and talk to Market Manager Kaz and find out all that Powhatan Village Market has to offer. I'm here with Kaz Mock, the Market Manager of the Powhatan Village Market. So Kaz, can you tell me a little bit more about this market?
We've been here at the Bienvenue location for about 3 years, and I've been the market manager for 2. And we have at least 30 vendors every week, over 70 total.
Wow.
But that also includes a lot of community organizations that I've invited to be a part of the market. So it's a community gathering place, and that's what it's become.
What is your favorite part about managing this market?
Probably the number of families that it attracts. You will see kids everywhere around this market. We've partnered with Powhatan County Parks and Rec to come every week with their Kids Zone. So kids have a safe place to have fun, and they're supervised, and that enables the parents to shop local and enjoy food trucks and local live music.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. I really appreciate the time that you spent, and we're going to go off and meet some vendors.
Have fun shopping.
Thank you. If it's your first time joining us on Chef Adventure, then let me fill you in on this little challenge that I have for myself. At every market, I'm going to be shopping with a $25 budget and thinking up a recipe on the fly. Today, I'm leaning towards peaches since we're in the heart of peach season in mid-August in Virginia. This is powered by Performance Food Service, and we're so excited to get started. Let's go check out the produce vendor. So here we're at Crazy Farm, where I'll be getting my produce for today's recipe. I'm super inspired by peach season, and we're gonna have some great wings that I'll be dressing up with it later. So I'll be chatting with Sergio, who runs this amazing family-owned farm that's based in Warsaw, Virginia. Can you tell me the difference between white peaches and yellow peaches?
Yellow peaches, they're more sweeter and more watery, more juicy. The white peaches, some people use for cooking.
And there's more savory
Yes,
qualities.
and this one they're more juicy, more watery.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for helping guide me on this journey. I'm here with Greg from Chicory Hill Farm. Greg, can you tell me a little bit more about your operation and what you do?
Sure. So we are a regenerative farm right here in Powhatan. We raise grass-fed beef, pasture-raised pork, and pasture-raised chicken.
So tell me a little bit more about what you have to offer today. As you know, I'm challenging myself with creating a recipe on the fly.
Yep.
So wanting to highlight some peaches for peach season.
So I think with the peaches, I think you should try our chicken wings.
Amazing.
Yeah, they are awesome. They are awesome.
Now that I'm done shopping, we're ready to get cooking. So come back to my kitchen with me. Let's get started. Welcome to my kitchen. After our visit to the Powhatan Village Market, I'm going to be making chicken wings with a peach glaze. It's the perfect thing to have in the middle of August in Virginia. These peaches are so fresh, and I'll be making a little bit of corn to go with it on the side, so you have a complete meal. So first things first, we are going to be dredging our chicken. What a dredge is we're essentially just sopping up that moisture from the chicken with a little bit of flour. What we're going to want to do is I like to cut my chicken bags over the bag that it came in, just in case there's any extra juice that comes out of it. More often than not, at a farmer's market, what you'll find is the meat has been frozen. So this took a little bit of time to defrost and thaw. And so I'll be taking each chicken drumette and wing out and putting it into this Pyrex plate for seasoning and for dredging. Now it's time to season our chicken. And you might have seen a tip online that you should put your seasoning in with your flour mix. Seasoning, we're talking about salt and pepper. And while that can be a great shortcut, it actually isn't recommended because what ends up happening is your salt may sink to the bottom of the flour and you'll end up with pieces that are not evenly seasoned. So I always like to season my meat, whether it's chicken, fish, before I put it into the flour mixture to dredge it. A pro tip that I got from culinary school when salting things is that you want to salt high and dry. And so essentially what that means is that when you are salting a plate like this, you want to have a dry hand so that the salt doesn't clump into spots on the meat that you're cooking. But you also want to be high up so that when you're sprinkling it, little Salt Bae action, it's getting evenly distributed across all of the chicken. The same thing here with some pepper, just making sure that it really gets evenly across everything. You don't need a lot of flour for this recipe, especially if you purchased your wings from Chicory Hill Farm. They came in these, gorgeous 3-piece sets, each wing. So we've got a lot to work with here. So I'll just be pouring flour in. Again, you don't need a whole lot. This is about maybe 1/4 cup of flour. You really just want to kind of roll it in. You want to roll the chicken into the flour, really dry up that moisture. And essentially what this is going to do is it's just going to make this get nice and crispy when we pan fry it on the stove before we get into our marinade. And so you can see all of these pieces are lightly dusted in flour. This will really just help it crisp up when we pan fry. And I'm going to set this aside for 10 minutes while I start to prep our peach glaze that's going to go on top of this. Per Sergio's recommendation from Crazy Farm, we chose white peaches. They have a more neutral flavor. It still has that sweetness, but it's a little bit less dessert sweetness. And so white peaches tend to lend themselves very well to savory recipes. If you have salsa that you want to get a little sweet kick in there to balance out the spicy, you can really do that with a white peach. Now that I've got my peaches peeled, I'm going to just slice them up into some rough chunks. I'm going to be reducing this over heat in a small stock pot. So the size of the slices don't really matter so much. You can kind of have a big piece like this and a small piece like this. And because it's all going into a stock pot, it's going to reduce the same. It's a little bit different than when we're cooking a vegetable to consume, where you might want to keep the same uniform slices. We have a little bit more freedom here to go quickly. All of my peaches are chopped up and ready to go in this stock pot here. Going to add a little bit of water, and then I'm going to reduce this down on the stove. So this works extremely well if your peaches are not quite ripe yet. This will really soften them up. Mine are a really nice texture. Great flavor. So this will work really well. So now it's time to chop up my jalapenos. Jalapenos tend to come in bulk, but I'm really only going to need one of them. Something that Sergio was telling us was how to determine whether a pepper is hot or not. And he mentioned that when you see that they are kind of clear here, it's just plain skin, they're not going to be very spicy. Whereas when you have the rippling of the skin, it'll be a spicier pepper. So we're going to go with this one that's a little bit spicier. And for this recipe, I'm only going to be cutting up one. If you love spice, feel free to swap this out with any other pepper of choice. You could do a ghost chili, a habanero chili. And I like to cut around the edges so that I can limit the amount of seeds that I get and keep the core intact. Similar to the peaches, I'm just going to be roughly chopping this up. This is all going to be going into either a food processor or a blender to make this sauce a little bit more cohesive and not chunky. We want this glaze to really be just smooth going onto the chicken. So as we've got here, you can see we have too much pepper. So here we are, we've got our corn. And there's not really much you have to do with corn. Because of the size of my pot, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to break it right in half. well, sort of in half. And this will just boil for a little bit until it is a little bit brighter in color, depending on how far along in the boiling process your water is. Could take anywhere between 4 to 7 minutes to cook your corn. All right, so now we're at the stove and we're going to be doing all of our cooking together. The beauty of this recipe is that while it takes 3 pans, as you can see, it can all kind of be done simultaneously. So I have my pot of water getting up to a boil in the back for my corn, and I'm going to start with my peaches. So we're going to really be softening these in a little bit of water. The amount of water is not quite exact. We can always drain off anything that is excess. You essentially want the peaches to be just half covered with water. So depending on how big your sauce pot is, you'll want to gauge the amount of water based on the amount of peaches in there. And the water is really just working as a buffer for the peaches so that they don't burn up against the side of the hot pan. And it really allows the flavor to come out, for them to soften up really nicely. And something else we're going to be doing here is I'm going to be cooking these beautiful wings. When we're pan frying something, you want to make sure that the entire pan has a base of oil. So as you can see here, this whole pan, it's so cool, has an entire base of oil around it. There's like a little bit swishing around. So we're going to start by heating this up. Just going to do a little test. Just dip a little piece in. All right. I can hear from here the little crinkle once I dipped just a little piece of my wing in, and that's a great sign that your oil is hot enough. So right away it's starting to sizzle. So as you can see, I've got all but one wing on this pan, and that's because personally, I don't like to overfill my pans. I think that you end up with a tricky situation if you are overfilling your pan, because you won't get as even of a cook. And so by underfilling my pan, I can get a really even cook, making sure there's space in between each wing for the oils to come up the sides. And if you want it, if you're making a nice big batch, you can just get multiple pans going at the same time. While these are cooking, I'm going to get my corn into the boiling water. I've got it right here. Chicken's been flipped a little bit. You can see that the oil is just popping off. All right, now it's time to take out our corn, just using some fresh tongs. And we are going to let this cool off for us to enjoy with our chicken. Chicken is almost done. A nice, crisp skin. And now let's make our peach glaze. All right, now it's time to get started with our peach glaze. There's a little bit of water that I left behind to kind of give the sauce a little bit of liquid. So we're going to be doing a little bit of apple cider vinegar. Something that you can keep in mind, and I've said this in videos before, you can always add more, but you can't take away. So I'm going to do about half of a pepper to start with, and then I'll be tasting the sauce to see how spicy it is. Then also going to be doing a little bit of honey. About a half. Sprinkle of salt. And let's blend this, guy. Something to keep in mind when you're blending things right off of the heat is that the pressure tends to increase. So I'm probably going to blend this in sets just to make sure that it doesn't go overboard. Now we've got our nice, sweet and spicy peach sauce to go on our wings. When you're checking the temperature of chicken, you want it to be 164 degrees Fahrenheit, or higher would be a little bit overcooked. And really what you want to do is you want to aim for the center of the piece of chicken. So when I'm doing this, I'm not pushing the thermometer all the way down because then it would be reading the temperature of the pan itself. And I'm also not too high up because then it would only be reading the temperature of the skin. So with the wingettes, I try to go right in the middle of that bone and get that middle spot. Perfect. 167 is going to be delicious. Now I'm going to take my chicken off of the pan, bring it into a brand new Pyrex, and get my nice little glaze onto it. Wow, these are really pretty. I would love for you to take a look at this golden skin on this chicken. Perfection. Smells good too. So I'm just going to go straight for it. Pour it right on. It'll be great while it's hot. Both the peach glaze and the chicken wings are hot. This peach glaze on these chicken wings is really the perfect way to blend a staple from Chicory Hill Farm, which is a regenerative meat farm, along with a seasonal staple of peaches. And it's just something that you can have just once, twice, even 3 times a year. I am so excited to dive in. Before I do, a little note about my corn. This corn is so flavorful, so I didn't add any butter or salt. I'm really excited to see how it tastes just as it is. Oftentimes with corn that I buy from the farmer's market, I find that I really don't need to add any seasonings to it. So let's dive on in. Just as I expected, so flavorful, sweet, salty, and I didn't do anything to it. Now let's try these delicious wings. Oh, wow. The sweetness of the peach combined with the little hit of spice from the jalapeno is just the perfect balance for this chicken wing. And the fat from the chicken skin also really balances it out, which was unexpected for me. I love this bite, and I'm going in for more. There's something about homemade wings that just doesn't compare to the store-bought kind. It's so tasty, so delicious, so fresh, and especially with the chicken from Chicory Hill Farm, you know that it's been raised well, that there aren't going to be a lot of hormones, preservatives, all of those things that you find in the grocery store aisle chicken. It's such a high quality, really worth it, and I hope that you try this at home. Thank you so much for coming on this journey with me today. I loved taking you to the Powhatan Village Farmers Market, and I'm so excited for you to join us on our next trip. This is all powered by Performance Food Service, and I hope you'll join us again next time.